The one where Old Yeller dies was my introduction to the film Old Yeller. In fact, it wasn't even until this year that I watched Old Yeller because, well, I knew how it ended thanks to this episode, and I didn't want to have to deal with that, very much like Phoebe. This is the 20th episode of the second season of Friends, directed by Michael Lembeck, and as always, I will go through the various plot points, things that I liked, various thoughts, so there will be spoilers in this episode discussion for this episode, but I won't spoil anything that happens in future episodes. So the title comes from the fact that Phoebe learns that her mother used to stop films before the sad endings. And obviously I learned through this that Old Yeller dies. And yeah, I recently watched Old Yeller and it's worth it, but it's brutal. And Phoebe has some discovery. She has a lot of different things to discover. Ben is also in this. I think it's been a while since Ben's been in an episode. I'm not 100% sure who plays Ben in this because he's not credited on IMDb. He's not listed at the end of the episode where they list the guest appearances. So if anybody knows who played Ben in season 2, please feel free to let me know. But Ben is learning to talk and learning to walk, and Ross is upset that he's missing these really important milestones. So he gets to spend a full weekend with Ben. Rachel doesn't really know how to hold Ben, and then Ross reveals that he's planned their entire life together, and Rachel kind of freaks out. And yeah, I feel like one would. I think it's okay to plan your entire life with somebody in your head, but until you've had a conversation with them about what they want, yeah, maybe you shouldn't tell them everything, because having somebody else plan your entire life without your input isn't great. But of course, Ross was coming from a good place. He loves Rachel, wants to be with her. Also, very interesting that he decided the child they had was going to be called Emily. I can't say too much more about that, but I thought that was particularly fascinating. I like how that part of the narrative developed. I like how it ultimately played out. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think it was a really, really nice self-contained roller coaster. They could have, spread that over several episodes and, made it a fight between Ross and Rachel. But I think everything developed in a way that was pretty reasonable. And then we have Joey, Chandler, and Richard. It's great to see Joey and Chandler spending time with Richard, having Richard come across as one of the guys, but they treat him in a way that's kind of hero worship with the cigar and the mustache. Chandler looked awesome, but also in a way that's not very nice because he's just, as they said, like a dad. And on the one hand, that's maybe a compliment to see somebody as a father figure, but not when they're trying to be one of the guys. So I feel for Richard, but at the same time, it's nice to have him involved with characters other than Monica. I think Richard is a great character. I think Tom Selleck brought something really special to Friends with this character, and I'll always have a soft spot for the character. Really enjoyed this episode. Definitely has a lot going for it. It's nice to have an episode that's definitely thought-provoking, especially with the treatment of Rachel and Richard, but it's not as heavy. We've had quite a few heavy episodes in season 2, and this one's just nice to have things feeling like they're in a steady direction again, particularly with Chandler and Joey obviously back together again, which is something that I think was inevitable. Really a solid episode. It may have ruined Old Yeller for me, but it's still worth watching. But it did take me, I don't know, the best part of 20 something years to watch it. I don't know when exactly I first saw this episode. But had I not seen this episode, had I not known how Old Yeller ended, I probably would have seen it sooner. I don't necessarily agree with media giving away endings of films, particularly when it's quite a shocking ending, but it is what it is. It's a decent episode though. The one where Old Yeller dies is definitely one that I'll always be happy to watch.